You're looking at a funeral portrait from 1871, taken in the coal mining town of Mill Haven, Pennsylvania. The photograph shows the Garrett family gathered around the open casket of 7-year-old Thomas Garrett. What disturbs experts to this day is not the Victorian custom of photographing the dead. It's that the boy's eyes are clearly open in the image, staring directly at the camera. According to the mortician's records, kept by Ephraim Blackwood of Blackwood and Sons Funeral Parlor, Thomas had been dead for 3 days. His eyes had been properly closed and weighted with coins, according to standard practice. The glass plates were examined by Professor Martin Hale of the Philadelphia Institute of Photographic Sciences in 1923. He found no evidence of double exposure, manipulation, or optical illusion. The boy's pupils show clear reflection of the studio's gas lamps. Medical examination notes from Dr. Cornelius Webb describe rigor mortis as complete and irreversible. Yet somehow, between the mortician's preparation and the photographer's final shot, Thomas Garrett had opened his eyes. The image was discovered in 1962 when the Blackwood Funeral Home was demolished, hidden behind a loose brick in the basement wall, wrapped in oilcloth with a note reading, "Never to be displayed." The handwriting matched Ephraim Blackwood's ledger entries. What made him hide this particular portrait has never been explained. Thomas had died in a mining accident at the Garrett family's homestead claim. He had fallen into an abandoned shaft while playing near the entrance. His body was recovered after 2 days of excavation. But witnesses at the funeral reported something that the official death certificate omitted. Mrs. Sarah Pemberton, a neighbor present during the viewing, wrote in her diary, "The child's eyes followed us about the parlor." 3 other attendees made similar observations in letters discovered decades later. The photographer, Heinrich Zimmermann, left Millhaven immediately after the session. His equipment was found abandoned at the train station. A telegram to his studio in Pittsburgh read simply, "Cannot explain what occurred. Will not return." The negative plate disappeared from his possessions. Only this single print survived, bearing Zimmermann's studio stamp and the date, October 13th, 1871. The Garrett family moved west within the month. Their homestead was never claimed by another family. Local records show the property remained untouched for 43 years. When the town finally surveyed the abandoned claim in 1914, they found something unsettling. The shaft where Thomas had died was no longer there. The ground showed no sign it had ever been disturbed. Yet the boy's body had undeniably been pulled from that exact location. If cases like this fascinate you, subscribe and turn on notifications for the next file. The autumn of 1871 marked the height of Pennsylvania's anthracite coal boom. Mill Haven operated 7 active mines, employing over 400 men. Steam-powered winches had replaced hand-cranked systems, allowing deeper excavations than ever before. Photography was still considered an almost mystical process by many rural communities. The wet collodion method required precise timing and chemical knowledge that few possessed. Glass plates were expensive and fragile, making each exposure precious. Dr. Webb's medical journal, discovered in the archives of St. Bartholomew's Hospital in 1948, provides crucial details. His entry for October 10, 1871, describes Thomas Garrett's condition upon recovery. Body shows signs of prolonged submersion in standing water. This was peculiar, because the abandoned shaft was known to be completely dry. Multiple witnesses had confirmed the absence of water during the 2-day rescue effort. Webb's notes continue. Skin presents unusual pallor, almost translucent in quality. Fingernails and lips retain coloration, inconsistent with typical drowning cases. The doctor had practiced medicine for 18 years and documented over 60 mining fatalities. Thomas Garrett's case was the only one he marked as requiring further investigation. A parish register note from Father Benedict Morrison adds another troubling detail. The priest had visited the Garrett home on October 11th to discuss funeral arrangements. His handwritten margin note states, "Child's body showed signs of movement during blessing. Mrs. Garrett insisted I had imagined such things, but I trust my own observations." Father Morrison had served the community for 12 years, without recording similar concerns. The funeral parlor ledger reveals that Ephraim Blackwood charged the Garrett family only half his usual fee. His notation reads, "Services completed under unusual circumstances, payment adjusted accordingly." Blackwood had never offered such reductions in 22 years of business. The photographer Heinrich Zimmermann had been recommended by the funeral director personally. Zimmermann had established a reputation for respectful post-mortem portraits throughout western Pennsylvania. His technical skill with the challenging wet plate process was considered exceptional. The Mill Haven Gazette published a brief notice of Thomas's death on October 12th. The article mentions the accident but provides no details about the recovery operation. This was unusual, as mining accidents typically received extensive coverage due to public concern. The newspaper's editor, James Rutherford, wrote in a private letter, "Some stories are best left untold." That letter was found among his papers in 1959 when his estate was settled. Zimmermann's assistant, a young man named Peter Holbrook, had accompanied him to the Garrett funeral. Holbrook's testimony, given to police in Pittsburgh days later, describes the photographic session. Mr. Zimmermann set up his camera as usual, but when he emerged from beneath the focusing cloth, his face had gone white. He said the boy's eyes were following the lens as he adjusted the focus. I told him that was impossible, but he insisted we complete the session quickly and leave. The photograph was taken using Zimmermann's standard funeral portrait setup in the Garrett family parlor. 2 magnesium flash pans provided illumination, positioned on either side of the casket. The camera, a Dallmeyer lens mounted on a sturdy wooden tripod, was placed 8 feet from the subject. Exposure time was calculated at 45 seconds, based on available light conditions. Mrs. Elizabeth Garrett, Thomas's mother, had requested a formal family portrait surrounding the casket. She stood to the left, wearing her black mourning dress with jet buttons. Thomas's father, mine foreman Robert Garrett, positioned himself at the foot of the casket. 2 sisters, ages 9 and 11, flanked their mother in matching dark pinafores. The family remained motionless throughout the exposure, as was customary for such portraits. Peter Holbrook monitored the timing with his pocket watch, counting the seconds aloud. At the 30-second mark, he later testified, Mrs. Garrett gasped and stepped backward. She was staring directly at Thomas's face with an expression of absolute terror. Holbrook looked at the boy and saw nothing unusual. The eyes appeared properly closed. But Zimmermann, still beneath the camera cloth, began muttering in German. When he emerged, his hands were trembling as he removed the glass plate from the camera. "The boy was watching me through the lens," Zimmermann told his assistant. "His eyes opened during the exposure and followed my movements." Holbrook examined Thomas's face immediately after the photograph was completed. The eyes were shut, the coins still in place, exactly as the mortician had arranged them. No family member besides Mrs. Garrett had noticed anything unusual during the session. The glass plate was developed that same evening in Zimmerman's portable darkroom tent. The image emerged normally during the fixing process, showing the assembled family in sharp detail. But when Zimmerman examined the finished plate under magnification, he discovered the anomaly. Thomas Garrett's eyes were unmistakably open, pupils clearly visible, and apparently focused. The reflection of the gas lamp flames could be seen in each cornea. Most disturbing was the direction of the boy's gaze, directly toward the camera lens. Zimmerman made only 3 prints from the negative before sealing it in a wooden box. 1 print was delivered to the Garrett family as contracted. The second was kept for his studio records, as was his usual practice. The 3rd print was sent to Professor Martin Hale at the Philadelphia Institute of Photographic Sciences. Zimmerman's accompanying letter requested urgent analysis of what he termed an impossible image. Professor Hale received the photograph on October 18, 1871. His laboratory notes describe multiple examination techniques applied over several days. Chemical analysis of the silver halides showed normal development patterns. Microscopic inspection revealed no evidence of retouching or manipulation. The image density measurements were consistent throughout the entire plate surface. Professor Hale's report, dated October 25, 1871, remains archived at the Institute's library. His initial conclusion was that the photograph represented a genuine and unexplained phenomenon. Hale had examined over 2,000 photographic plates during his 15-year career. He possessed expertise in detecting fraudulent spirit photography, a common deception of the era. The technical analysis employed both chemical testing and optical measurement techniques. Spectroscopic examination of the silver deposits showed uniform distribution across the image. The grain structure exhibited no signs of double exposure or composite printing methods. Most significantly, the focal depth of the boy's open eyes matched the camera's lens settings perfectly. If the eyes had been painted or drawn onto the plate, they would have appeared flat and out of focus. Instead, they showed proper dimensional depth consistent with living tissue. Dr. Albert Steinberg of the Pennsylvania Medical College examined the photograph on November 3rd. His specialty in post-mortem physiology provided insight into the impossibility of the image. Steinberg's written assessment states, "The muscular structure required to open human eyelids cannot function after death." Rigor mortis would have fixed the facial muscles in their closed position within hours. The clear corneal reflections visible in this image require active blood circulation to maintain tissue transparency. The doctor had conducted anatomical studies on over 300 cadavers during his research. His expertise in ocular physiology made him uniquely qualified to assess the photograph's implications. A sealed police memorandum from Deputy Sheriff William Crawford was discovered in 1967. Crawford had investigated the circumstances surrounding Thomas Garrett's death at the family's request. His report, dated October 20, 1871, describes several disturbing findings at the accident site. The abandoned mine shaft where Thomas allegedly fell measured 12 feet in depth. But the boy's body had been found at a depth of 18 feet, in a chamber that didn't appear on any mining survey. Crawford's measurements were verified by mine inspector Theodore Walsh on October 21st. Walsh had surveyed that particular claim in 1869 and confirmed that no 18-foot chamber existed. The additional 6 feet of excavation showed evidence of recent digging. Fresh tool marks were visible in the rock walls, despite the shaft's supposedly abandoned status. Most puzzling was the discovery of Thomas's clothing, found neatly folded at the shaft's original 12-foot bottom. The boy had been recovered, wearing different clothes entirely. When questioned about this discrepancy, Mrs. Garrett became hysterical and refused to discuss the matter further. Robert Garrett claimed he had not noticed the clothing change due to his emotional distress. Deputy Crawford noted that the parents' statements contained several inconsistencies regarding the timeline of events. The official accident report was filed with minimal details to avoid further family distress. But Crawford's personal notes reveal his growing suspicion that Thomas's death involved circumstances beyond a simple fall. A telegraph message from Heinrich Zimmermann to the Philadelphia Institute arrived on October 26th. The wire read, "Negative plate has begun showing additional changes. Development continuing without chemical intervention. Request immediate consultation." 3 competing theories emerged to explain the impossible photograph and surrounding circumstances. The rational explanation focused on possible errors in photographic technique or documentation. Dr. Raymond Fisher of the Boston Institute of Technology proposed that post-mortem muscle spasms could have opened the eyes. His theory suggested that the mortician's preparation might have been incomplete or improperly executed. Fisher argued that certain chemical reactions in decomposing tissue could cause involuntary muscle contractions. However, this explanation failed to account for the clear corneal reflections visible in the photograph. Dead tissue cannot maintain the transparency necessary for such detailed optical effects. Additionally, 3 separate witnesses had observed the boy's closed eyes immediately before the photograph. The procedural theory suggested human intervention or deliberate deception by parties unknown. Investigator Marcus Reed of the Pennsylvania State Police proposed that Thomas had never actually died. Reed theorized that the mining accident had been staged to conceal another crime entirely. His hypotheses required collaboration between the family, the mortician, and possibly the local physician. This theory explained the inconsistencies in clothing and the mysterious additional chamber in the mine shaft. But it could not account for Dr. Webb's detailed medical examination, confirming the boy's death. The physician's reputation and experience made such a fundamental misdiagnosis highly improbable. Furthermore, the family's genuine emotional distress had been witnessed by multiple community members. The paranormal explanation emerged from spiritualist investigator Madame Cordelia Blackthorne of Philadelphia. The night air was still, providing no explanation for the sudden loss of light. In the darkness, all 3 men heard what sounded like a child's laughter, echoing from the excavation. The sound continued for nearly 30 seconds, before fading to silence. Crawford's official report described the incident as unexplained disturbance requiring daylight investigation. When the men returned at dawn, they found the hole had been completely filled. The soil surface was level and undisturbed, showing no evidence of the previous night's excavation. No footprints remained visible in the hard, packed earth. The only trace of the overnight events was a small object lying where the hole's center had been. Crawford retrieved a child's shoe, worn and muddy, but matching no description from the accident report. Inside the shoe, wrapped in oiled paper, was a single photographic print. The image showed Thomas Garrett's funeral portrait, but with a crucial difference. The boy's eyes were now clearly focused on something beyond the camera's left side. His mouth was open as if speaking, though no sound could emerge from the silent photograph. The Garrett homestead remained untouched for 43 years, following the November 8th incident. Local residents avoided the property, claiming it brought misfortune to anyone who lingered there. 3 separate families attempted to purchase and settle the land between 1872 and 1889. Each ownership lasted less than 6 months, before the new residents abandoned their claims. Reports consistently described unexplained sounds emanating from the ground after sunset. Children in neighboring homesteads complained of nightmares featuring a pale boy calling to them. The Millhaven Township sealed all records related to the Garrett case in 1895. Official documents were transferred to a vault in the basement of the county courthouse. Access required written permission from both the sheriff and the town council. No such permission was granted for over 60 years. In 1934, construction workers renovating the courthouse discovered the sealed vault had been flooded. Water damage had destroyed most of the archived materials, including photographs and witness statements. Only fragments of Deputy Crawford's personal notes survived, written in water-resistant ink. These fragments referenced recurring incidents at 17 different mine sites throughout western Pennsylvania. Each location had experienced similar unexplained phenomena involving deceased children. The pattern suggested a regional problem that authorities had deliberately concealed. Heinrich Zimmermann's photographic negative resurfaced in 1952 during an estate sale in Pittsburgh. The glass plate was found among the possessions of Professor Hale's deceased colleague, Dr. Arthur Morrison. Morrison had apparently acquired the negative sometime after Hale's death in 1923. When developed by modern photographic techniques, the image showed startling new details. Thomas Garrett's funeral portrait now depicted an empty casket, surrounded by the grieving family. The boy's body was no longer visible in the frame, though his clothing remained neatly arranged. Most disturbing was a new figure barely visible in the background shadows. A child-sized silhouette stood near the parlor window, its features indistinct but unmistakably present. The Smithfield Museum of Regional History acquired the photograph in 1954. Curator Margaret Whitfield documented additional changes occurring in the image over time. Between 1954 and 1961, the shadow figure gradually moved closer to the family group. By 1962, it appeared to be standing directly behind Mrs. Garrett, nearly touching her shoulder. The museum sealed the photograph in 1963, after visitors reported feeling watched while viewing it. Staff members complained of equipment malfunctions and unexplained temperature drops in the exhibition room. A final incident occurred during a 1967 photography conference when the image was briefly displayed. 3 professional photographers independently reported seeing the shadow figure move during the presentation. The photograph was permanently removed from public display and transferred to secure storage. Recent digital scanning attempts have been unsuccessful due to consistent equipment failures. The image appears to resist modern reproduction methods, though the reason remains unknown. Today, the digitized case files rest in the Pennsylvania State Archives' restricted access collection. Researchers must demonstrate legitimate academic purpose and obtain special clearance to examine the materials. The original photographic plate remains in climate-controlled storage at the Smithfield Museum. Museum Director Dr. Caroline Westfield reports ongoing anomalies associated with the artifact. Security cameras positioned to monitor the storage area malfunction within 48 hours of installation. Digital recording equipment produces only static when aimed at the photograph's location. Even handwritten inventory logs disappear or show altered entries when staff attempts documentation. The phenomenon has extended to 17 other historical photographs in the museum's collection. Each image features post-mortem portraits of children from Pennsylvania mining communities between 1865 and 1889. All show similar unexplained anomalies. Open eyes, altered expressions, or additional figures appearing over time. Dr. Westfield's research suggests a pattern of concealed deaths throughout the region's mining history. Official records consistently omit crucial details about accidents involving children. witness statements from surviving family members describe experiences matching the Garrett case exactly. The mining companies appear to have suppressed investigations to avoid public panic and regulatory intervention. In 2019, ground-penetrating radar surveys of the former Garrett homestead revealed extensive underground chambers. The excavations extend far deeper than any historical mining operations in the area. Acoustic analysis indicates these chambers remain partially filled with standing water despite the region's dry climate. Local residents continue reporting unusual phenomena at sites throughout the former mining district. Children's voices echo from sealed mine shafts on windless nights. Photographers attempting to document abandoned mining equipment experience consistent camera failures. Several digital images taken at these locations show shadowy figures that were not visible during shooting. The Garrett case remains officially unsolved, filed under historical anomalies requiring future investigation. Modern forensic techniques have been unable to explain the photographic evidence or witness testimony. The case has inspired academic research into the intersection of trauma, technology, and unexplained phenomena. But no theory has successfully addressed all aspects of Thomas Garrett's impossible funeral portrait. Perhaps some mysteries resist solution because they represent something beyond our current understanding. Or maybe the truth lies buried in those flooded Pennsylvania mine shafts, waiting for someone brave enough to descend into the darkness. What do you see when you look at a photograph of the dead? And more importantly, what might be looking back at you? If cases like this fascinate you, subscribe and turn on notifications for the next file. In March 2023, urban explorer David Chen uploaded footage from the abandoned Millhaven mining district to his YouTube channel. His thermal imaging camera detected heat signatures in the sealed underground chambers beneath the former Garrett property. The signatures moved in patterns consistent with human activity, despite the area being inaccessible for over a century. Chen's video went viral, attracting the attention of paranormal investigators and mining historians. Dr. Sarah Martinez of Carnegie Mellon University led a research expedition to the site in August 2023. Her team used advanced ground-penetrating radar and acoustic mapping technology to survey the underground network. The chambers extended over 3 miles beneath the surface, connecting multiple former mine sites throughout the valley. Water samples extracted from the flooded sections contain mineral compositions that don't match local geology. Most puzzling was the discovery of organic material preserved in the standing water. Laboratory analysis identified fragments of 19th century clothing and leather goods in near-perfect condition. The preservation exceeded what should be possible in a typical underground environment. Temperature readings from the deepest chambers registered a consistent 34 degrees Fahrenheit, despite seasonal surface variations. Dr. Martinez's final report, submitted to the Pennsylvania Geological Survey, recommended permanent site monitoring. Her team documented electromagnetic anomalies that interfered with modern equipment in specific locations. These interference patterns corresponded exactly to areas where historical mining accidents had occurred. The research attracted international attention when similar phenomena were reported at abandoned mining sites across 3 continents. Victorian-era photographs from Wales, Germany, and Nova Scotia showed identical post-mortem anomalies. Each case involved children who had died near mine workings between 1860 and 1895. The global pattern suggested environmental factors related to specific geological formations and industrial mining practices. Dr. Westfield's museum now serves as a clearinghouse for reports of anomalous historical photographs worldwide. Over 400 similar images have been documented, all featuring deceased children from mining communities. the photographs continue to change and evolve, defying conventional understanding of fixed imagery. Recent developments include the appearance of modern objects within historical photographs. Cell phones, digital cameras, and contemporary clothing have manifested in images taken over 150 years ago. These anachronistic elements suggest the photographs exist outside normal temporal boundaries. The Thomas Garrett case has become a touchstone for researchers studying the intersection of technology and unexplained phenomena. But as investigations deepen, the questions multiply rather than resolve. The boy with open eyes in his funeral portrait may represent something far more complex than a simple haunting. Perhaps he serves as a window into dimensions where time, death, and consciousness operate by different rules entirely. Or maybe he's trying to tell us something about the true cost of industrial progress on the innocent. The mystery deepens with each new discovery, pulling investigators further into darkness that mirrors those Pennsylvania mine shafts. Some cases don't end with solutions. They evolve into larger questions about the nature of reality itself. What began as a single impossible photograph has become evidence of a phenomenon that spans centuries and continents. If cases like this fascinate you, subscribe and turn on notifications for the next file. Disclaimer: the story you just watched is fictional. It explores themes of mystery, history, and the supernatural. This narrative aims to provoke curiosity, inspire wonder, and remind us that some truths defy simple explanation.